What up, man? Welcome to another episode of the Father Figure Podcast, man. The podcast where we are about encouraging, uplifting, empowering fathers through their journey of fatherhood and being father figures, man. Real fathers, real issues, real solutions, man. I'm glad to reintroduce y'all to my co-host, the homie. You know what I'm saying? The mind manager, man, my boy Deontay Miller. What up, D?
What up, Reg? What up, fellas, man? It's good to be back. I know y'all miss me. I ain't going nowhere.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm still rocking this thing out.
You know what I'm saying? And we got our special guest, man, my boy Elliot in the building, man. We are definitely honored to have him here, man. Our story, we're gonna tell a little bit about that, man. But excellent, just all around human being, all around man, all around husband, all around father. What up, E?
Man, thank y'all so much, man, for having me over here to the Father Figure Podcast. Definitely an honor to sit at the round table with you guys.
Yeah.
Break bread, get some knowledge, put some insight out there.
Yeah. And
mesh our minds together, man, to further the lineage of what we got going on, man.
Yeah.
Nah, and that's really what this is about, man. It's about what we'll speak on tonight. It's about accountability. It's about responsibility, and it's about representation, man. That's one of the new concepts we were showing. There's no better way for us to really lead as father figures. There's no better way other than being present, so we can have that representation, man. So we're gonna jump right in, man. We ain't gonna waste no time, man. We'll just kind of let Elliot give us a breakdown, man. Just give us a breakdown of you know, what your immediate family looks like, then maybe what your extended family, you know, what your background is when it comes to fatherhood, being a father figure, all of that.
Man, come up with a 2-parent household. Father was always present. Didn't always see eye to eye,
Yeah.
but he was always present.
Gotcha.
You always had that representation of him. When I left for school, he was there. By the time I came home from school,
So he was there.
he was there.
Yeah.
I don't know how he managed to do it, but it always kind of worked out like that. So now you have that same element with my children. So married to my beautiful wife, Denisha, 8 years next year.
Right on.
8 years next year, man. So 2 beautiful children. My son, Aiden, 7 years old. My daughter, Alana, she's 4 years old. And I maintain that same presence with them. They know they're going to see daddy at school. You're going to see daddy at work. You're going to see daddy at church. You're going to see daddy at home. I'm at every cheer competition. I'm at every boxing practice. It's not too many times that you're going to see me and you don't see my children. That representation, anytime that I'm not pouring into them, I'm leaving it up to the world to pour into them.
Right.
And that is the only no-go that's out there. That is the only part that's unacceptable. And that is kind of what I wanted to share with you guys here today on what I was bringing to the table. Accountability, man. Accountability. The best investment that you can make into your fatherhood journey is giving your children the true you. Stepping outside of yourself, taking that first step to look in the mirror, true unadulterated look to see who you are, and then face that person to be the best version of yourself.
Nah, man, I agree 100%. And we really just kind of want to jump around the table and really get what accountability means to us as individuals, man. You know, we heard a little bit about what you think about accountability, and we definitely coming right back to you. But the reason that we have the movement, the podcast, the apparel, everything, because this is about self-accountability for us as men and father figures. You know what I'm saying? That's really where accountability starts.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if we can't assess ourselves, correct our mistakes, especially when it comes to our kids, man. All of us are different fathers, different father figures. You know, even when it comes to dealing with my nieces, man, or when it comes to dealing with the kids that I coach, like, you have to do an assessment in order to, and I heard Bishop Jake say this, you have to do a self-assessment so you know when to pivot. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times that means listening to our children or listening to the kids that we mentor, listening to the kids that we coach or whatever it is, and understanding this is where I need to pivot. You know what I'm saying? Deontay, give us your assessment of accountability when it comes to being a father figure.
Well, I think, man, what Elliot said, it kind of highlights what accountability looks like, right? You know, investing in your kids, man, is so paramount to their development at a young age because they're so impressionable. And it's that whole thing. I've said this on multiple podcasts, and it's always that thing where your kids are going to always follow your example and not your advice. I don't matter it doesn't matter what you tell your kids or what, you know, you shouldn't do this or should do this. They're going to look at you as their father and say, well, daddy did that, so that must be okay.
Exactly.
Right? Even the precedent that you set in terms of being there, right? I know one day that the way that I operate in terms of my family with Bryce as my son and even with my daughter is going to emulate how he operates with his own family. So being accountable to that, it's like a two-way, it's like a mirror. Right? Them kids are going to tell you or going to show you who your true self is, man, one way or another.
Yeah.
So you got to be accountable from that aspect, man. And then more importantly, man, being accountable to God, because understanding that those kids are entrusted to you as their father because they're a gift from God. And so I think that's enough weight in itself. I would imagine y'all would agree with that.
Most definitely.
No, see, and that's a big thing about accountability as well, that all of us have to understand more than anything as men.
Yeah.
That accountability don't mean comfortable.
Most
You know what I'm saying?
Most definitely.
And then, and I think me and Deontay was talking about this earlier. See, as fathers, our role is to a lot of times hold our kids accountable, to discipline them, to make them more responsible. But at the same time, they have to understand that's gonna make them uncomfortable.
Yeah,
It's not always my job, even as a coach, man. It is my job as a coach, as a mentor, as a father figure to push kids to where they're uncomfortable but get the best out of them.
Most definitely.
That's at home, that's with who we mentor, that's with who we coach, that's any especially anybody that's really without that father figure piece. Like, man, they gotta understand, like, you may not be used to this voice, but I'm the one who has to hold you accountable, and this is the part that special to me to have Elliot on the show, is that the boy that stabbed Camden didn't have that voice. And what's crazy is, man, this cat used to be my neighbor, D.
Yeah.
Never met before ever.
Right.
And most of the time we was in the courtroom, I would look up and see my guy and his wife in the courtroom, bro. And he understands more than anybody, because he was actually there a lot of days, that even when you looked across that courtroom, man, you see mama, grandma, auntie, sisters.
No man.
Bunch of kids, wasn't no men there. Wasn't no men there. Even for me, and Elliot will tell you, man, there's a lot of days I had to get up and walk out of that courtroom, man. But I also understood this platform that we are on right now is part of the solution where I saw a problem. And that's the only way that I ever got to a place where forgiveness ever even crept in, or because I heard God tell me, like, man, you looking down there, you see what it is. What all three of us would have told all of our sons. This boy never heard it, bro. Never heard it.
Yeah.
This cat will tell you, man, one of the hardest things I ever had to do was sit in the courtroom and watch a little boy stab my baby in the head on film. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, bro, if one piece of advice from one of us is going to keep the next family, the next baby from having to deal with that, then we doing our job, bro.
Can I chime in for a minute?
Go ahead.
Because something that Derek said, and
Deontay, don't.
I'm in Deontay. My apologies, man. My apologies. Please forgive me, my guys. My bad. D. I was finna say D, but Derek. My apologies, man. One thing that D said that made sense. They're gonna emulate what do you do.
There we go.
No one ever looks into child programming years. Year 1 through 7 are some of the most important years in the development
Absolutely.
of your child.
There we go.
What they're saying year 1 through 7 is going to develop how they deal with conflict resolution. The guy that stabbed your daughter. I guarantee you, year 1 through 7, somewhere between year 1 through 7, he saw that violence was the way to deal with things. Someone hits you, you hit them back. No one told them the proper ways of conflict resolution. Someone hit you, you hit them back. No one stopped them and told them, hey man, listen, once you can control you can control everything else around you. You remain calm in that situation so that you can fight it a different way.
Yeah.
That was never discussed there. So now he's 14, 15, 16, 17, and the first thing that comes to his mind when danger comes about is, I have to respond in violence. So that's when that voice kicks in. That's why I told you, my children are in those child programming years. You don't see them very often without seeing me. Those were the things that made me check myself. I spoke with someone about this. One of the closest people on my team relayed a message to me that woke me up. When she told me, all I see when I see your daughter is the daughter paying for the sins of the father. Your daughter's gonna meet a man just like you, the way you are right now. Are you gonna be able to deal with it? I got angry, I got mad. I spoke with my wife about it. My wife broke it down to me in a way that I can understand. Hey, listen, she's gonna meet a guy that's gonna lie to her. He's gonna give her false dreams, broken promises. She's gonna take him back each and every time. She's gonna cry about it. She's gonna lose a little bit more of herself each and every time. And she's gonna call you and you ain't even gonna be able to help her. Taking a look at who you are right now, would you want your daughter to marry a man just like you? And would you want your son to try to be someone's husband just as you are right now?
That's a real question to ask too, Elliot. And I honestly believe that a lot of men, if you really sat in that and looked in that mirror, asked yourself that question, it might make you kind of get a little fidgety, because you like, look, man, I got some stuff that I need to address in myself or with myself. So that very thing that you're talking about doesn't happen, right? I like what Elliot said though, where he talked about that 1 through 7, that child programming years, right? Because really for boys, by the age of 8, they should be affirmed in their identity. Right. By the age of 8, right? And so you think about what he said. He said, you progress and that never happens. And then he responds in violence because that's all he know, right? So here's the thing. As fathers, it's our job to prepare our children to what you're saying, because they're going to face challenges. They're going to face other things that are going to come as they continue to mature and become adults and young adults and whatnot. And they got to be able to cope and handle and process through that stuff in an effective, positive way. But if they never have that foundation that's laid from us as fathers, then guess what? They're going to get that from anywhere. Or they're going to just emulate what they seen, whatever they seen, right?
In the world.
Yeah.
The world is pouring into them because you're not.
And the thing about, man, Dre used this word a lot, bro. The thing about cultivation is that something is going to cultivate your child or influence your child or raise your child. You know what I'm saying? We all come, you a product of the 90s, 80s, 70s. What the thing is, bro, is that something is going to cultivate your children if you don't.
Yeah.
We might have grew up in 3 different eras, but that ain't changed. It might have went from gangs to drugs to social media, whatever it is. Something is going to cultivate your kids if you don't.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? And that's what we have to understand about being accountable, because accountability, responsibility looks different from the perspective of a father figure. You know what I'm saying? See, that's manhood. That accountability and responsibility is one thing. But when you reproduce, or when you responsible for somebody's youth or somebody's child, or let's say you can be a youth minister, you can be working at the Y, whatever the case may be, that transitions, again, that pivots that responsibility to something else.
So what you're saying is not necessarily the meaning of accountability changes, but the application of it looks different. The application,
you have to pivot how you apply that thing.
Gotcha. Ooh.
And again, that's a great analogy, D, because that's what Miles Monroe says the difference between knowledge and wisdom is. right? It's the application of that knowledge. That's what makes you wise. You know what I'm saying? And that's where we going back to that representation, because when there's lack of representation, now there's lack of knowledge and there's lack of wisdom.
Yeah.
You dig what I'm saying? And that's what we saying. That's what we saying about this young man that stabbed my baby, and it's a lot of them. Anybody that is missing that piece, that's a foundational piece.
Most definitely.
Y'all have been in mortgage and deal with houses, man, for a long time. It's impossible to build a house with no foundation.
Most definitely.
And a lot of our women and a lot of mothers and aunties and grandmothers, they are great when it comes to the framing and the plumbing and the sheetrock and the roof and the, you know what I'm saying? They do an excellent job. But that home is not properly intact without the foundation. And sometimes we play that down, and especially from an accountability standpoint. See, that's what we talking about, the application part. You got to understand, like, man, you the foundation of this thing. If you messed up, the whole house messed up.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Well, let me ask both of y'all this question though. Like, that's we understand that, right? Us three of us here talking about that, we understand that just as fathers and understanding the magnitude of what this represents. But how do you get fellas or brothers that look like us and that don't look like us, right? Because I think being a father is universal, regardless if you black, white, or whatever.
It's global.
But how do you get fellas to understand the importance or the seriousness of what you're talking about?
You make it relatable.
Explain that for me. What you talking about, Elliot?
Majority of men who either haven't had that father figure in their life or haven't had a true representation of that father figure in their life deal with a distorted self-image.
That's good.
They're going to, I may not be who I want to be, so I'm going to make myself up to be that person.
There you go.
Okay? So a distorted self-image. The number one thing, you have to make it relatable to them. So and this is just my own personal experience, I've always searched for my father's acceptance. I had an aunt that was a therapist, I had an aunt that was a teacher, and I had a mother that had a mind out this world. One taught me how to deal with my emotions, one taught me how to possess and maintain intellect, and one taught me how to be innovative about everything else in life and grind until you can't grind no more.
Yeah.
And that made me where, hey, I can sit here and I can speak to you about anything, right? You can do something that makes me absolutely angry right now and I can maintain my emotions and you would never know that you have bothered me. You can put a mission in front of me and I will work until work is not the definition anymore. But it became a thing to where I was never 100% sure within myself because I didn't have that attaboy from my dad.
That affirmation.
Look.
That affirmation.
Come on, Elliot.
Okay, so
affirmation, bro.
You have to make it relatable to them to where it speaks to them. It took me having a beautiful daughter that I never wanted to go through the pain that I had caused women to wake me up.
Right.
So my son, I'm being great with my son. I'm giving him this image of what I think that he should have based off what I wanted.
Right.
Right? But it wasn't until my daughter came in this world and now I'm looking at her like, man, is this gonna run out one day? Because you're gonna fake who you are for so long.
Yeah, man.
When you make it relatable to them and you find that one thing that touches them, these conversations, I guarantee you there's going to be thousands of men out there. Something in this conversation is going to tap them and make them say, man, that's me.
It's gonna resonate with them.
Oh, I need to look at that. Because this could be my daughter. This could be my son.
Or and let me take it biblical for a second. What you are talking about is the first or one of the first duties that God gave to me. And that was the gift or the assignment of identity. You name everything.
Okay.
Right? And we have to understand as men, that's the one thing that we give our children and all children, that we give them that nobody else can give them, is that affirmation that you talking about.
Most definitely.
There's nothing that can replace everybody at this table right now has a daughter, right?
Correct.
The affirmation that we give our daughters is something that is not replicable by any other entity, no other entity. See, for a boy, it's different because now that coach can step in and say, that a boy. Great job, son. Or you can take them under the wing like, man, come stay at my house. But for a girl, for our female children, that affirmation cannot come from anybody else except daddy.
Exactly.
And again, it may be a double standard, but at the same time, for boys and men, it's a little bit different because we just looking at that male figure that I respect. But for our young ladies and girls, and that was one of the hard parts about getting to this point, even with Camden and Kennedy, man, because for a long time, I felt guilty that I didn't do nothing to this boy. You dig what I'm saying? Think about what mental torture that take on you, man, as a father or the protector.
You didn't protect. Not in the way that the world said you should protect.
And it chips away at that thing, man.
That's what it is.
It chips away at that thing because any man, let's go back to, and I can't even watch the movie no more now. You go back to, is it A Time to Kill with Sam Jackson?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Where his baby get raped.
Y'all day, man.
Man, quit
I know. Yeah, right.
Hey, you better go watch this movie.
Right.
But that's the thing, man. Like his thing was even when the man came up for trial, like man, Sam Jackson ducked off in the closet, man, and came out blasting because, bro, it is impossible for anybody to understand what that take from you. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, every day I deal with it. Every single day I deal with. Does my protective piece is it still there? And they affirm that, you know what I'm saying? Because my girls, they don't have to say nothing, but at the same time, as men and as fathers, bro, like you never want that thing. You never want that to be chipped at. That part, that protective piece, man, is, I know we want to provide, but man, when it comes to our wives and our daughters, bro, you never want to have to deal with thinking or second guessing, did I protect them the way I'm supposed to?
And I think that to your point in what you're talking about, that goes back to the identity piece partially. And I say that because when you are affirmed in your identity, then nothing can really or should chip away at what you already know to be true because of who you are.
Right.
And when those thoughts come up, and it's a little bit of that therapy talking right now, you got to challenge them thoughts sometime, even as a father.
There it is.
You got to challenge them sometime and say to yourself, like, what evidence do I have that proves that this thought is true versus what evidence I have that proves this thought is untrue? And I promise you, as you go down that list and you really start to explore and dig into that as a father, you will find out that, you know what, man, this negative way of thinking that I have, this cognitive negative message that I keep telling myself, guess what? I have more facts that says that what I'm thinking is untrue, which means that I am exactly who I thought I was going to be. You know what I'm saying? Based on that identity that we're talking about. But see, the problem is too, and I have to keep us accountable, is that to be honest with you, a lot of fathers don't have an identity.
Right.
They don't really, and so how can you affirm that child when you don't really have any affirmation for yourself?
Right. Oof. So it's the carryover or the spillover from nobody being affirmed. You know what I'm saying? And that's the thing that makes this topic so important. And then we talk about it all the time, and we've talked about it on numerous podcasts, but just to get the different perspectives and to get the different intellect and insight on what accountability and responsibility looks like. And then you asked the perfect question, and I want you to kind of answer this too, Elliot, is our job now with the movement, with the podcast, with the apparel, everything we got set up, is how do we encourage and empower the cats that are inactive, that don't represent. And I know the factors are all over the place. You know what I'm saying? And some of them, there are some legitimate factors. But how do we encourage those cats who, whether legitimately or illegitimately, how do we encourage them, man, to plug in or plug back in and be present?
It requires exposing yourself. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna give you the real. I am who I am. I've done what I've done. I've accepted. It's the invitation to do the cognitive work. Right? Okay. So this gonna revert.
My fellow therapeutic brother.
Right. I just start speaking Spanish. You know what I'm saying? Like what? Like can you translate?
It's the invitation to change your mindset.
Yeah.
Okay. So D said something. You got to challenge those thoughts. Majority of us lack the knowledge and the willpower to challenge those thoughts on our own automatically.
Right. No, that's good.
I see D wears beads. I normally have beads on at all times. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you'll see me switching it from one on to the next. I just had a negative thought that went through my mind, and I had to do a physical act to remind myself the place that I'm at. Fear and anxiety and all of these things, majority of the same characteristics. It's never about the moment. Majority of the time it's about the fear of what happened in the past.
Yes, sir.
And the fear that it's going to happen again in the future. Right? So it's never about that moment. If you can get these individuals to live in the exact moment that they are in by exposing who you truly are, you extend the invitation for them to change their mindset. Hey, listen, I had a distorted self-image, wanted the acceptance of my father, didn't know who I was, so I created identities with multiple women. Mm-hmm. That's how I fed that distorted self-image that I had.
Got you.
I had a life with this woman, a life with that woman, a life with that woman, and then I come home and I deal with reality with my wife. So, talk about some absolute craziness, but when I expose that to them, this is who I was, and I'm no longer embarrassed about it because it's who I was. See, once it's no longer, you are truly healed from something when it's no longer tender. I can speak about it and tell the truth about it no more, and I'm not ashamed of it in any capacity because it's who I am.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's a part of the identity of who I am now because I overcame that. And if I can overcome that, I can assist you in overcoming yours.
Yeah.
I'm that shoulder to lean on. When you get tired and you running out of gas, I fill you up.
Yeah.
That is how we further the lineage of what it is by truly having that non-judgmental support system for what you have going on.
Yeah.
Nah, that's good because, and Deontay can attest for this, man, like, since we really created the podcast, that's exactly what it's been, man, because when you go through something as traumatic as I went through, we went through, you have to create a space, man, where first, like you said, it's a non-judgmental space. It's a safe space, but it's also a space where everybody can be vulnerable. You know what I'm saying? Like D been on if we done had 20 episodes, D done been on at least 17, 18 of them. And he'll tell you, man, on 10 of them, man, I'm boo-hooing, crying. You know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna tell y'all something, like, me and Camden, you know, Kennedy drive a little bit more than Camden. So Kennedy and Tiffany is in front of us driving Tiffany's car, and me and Cam behind them. And we just started talking, and I'm like, man, you know, God got something special for you, right, baby? And she like, yeah, God got something special for all of us, Daddy. And I'm like, Cam, how you know that? She was like, Daddy, first of all, I was the one there. You know what I'm saying? Like, God told me that when I didn't die. And I told her, like, I know daddy seemed different, but that took a lot out of daddy. And you know, daddy, you know, I'm building my way back up, and I'm trying to get right. And she like, I know that too, daddy. And I'm like, how you know, baby? And I didn't even realize this. She was like, cause I never saw you cry before that. And I was like, wow. You know what I'm saying? And our kids, again, that's part of that identity. And that's why we even got the shirt that says my children vouch for me. You know what I'm saying? A lot of what we talk about on this show, it's only valid because it's vouched via our children.
And that's what you want. You want your kids to be able to vouch for you when you not present.
When you're not there. And that's the only thing that makes anything that we speak on this show, or anything that we speak outside or in the shop, wherever it is, man, that's because your children vouch for you. Your children are the only cosigner that you need, man. When I hear people tell me, like, Reggie, you know why I purchase father figure gear, father figure apparel, you know why I listen to your podcast, you know why I support it? Because you are who you say you are. You are who, man, dog, we was in the hospital almost 90 days. And I had my clients that would still pay me, cash at me, Zelle, whatever, like they was still coming to the shop every week. That's a voucher. That's a voucher. That's a coupon. Like, man, this is a solid dude, but more than that, I know who you are. I know who you are, bro. Don't even trip. That's a voucher. And that's how I know, man, the movement, podcast, everything is in existence because we are in a space where men and father figures have to hear what we talking about.
Yeah.
Or again, there's gonna be more Camdens, and there's gonna be more scenarios where, you know what I'm saying? Like, man, sitting in the courtroom, it's hard to fathom. I am looking at a 15-year-old little boy who stabbed my baby in the head with a pair of scissors. That's why we here.
Yeah.
What in the hell? Like, bro, that's why we here. Judge talking about, well, you know, we gonna hold him because she getting better. They're like, hold on, time out. Time out. What you mean she getting better? The only reason she getting better because she ain't dead. And that's the thing, bro, that I know that we have to serve a purpose with the movement and the information, because, bro, I don't want nobody else sitting in no courtroom having to figure out why they baby done got damn near killed because somebody just didn't, you know, affirm them or give them information, or you sitting in a household where you done seen your mama get beat on, or you and your sisters might be fighting, so you just don't think violence toward women is nothing wrong with it. It gotta be some male representation there in order for a young man to understand, like, bro, you just don't do that. You don't do that.
Can I tap in?
Go ahead.
So I want to make sure that this is touched on before it gets too far down the line. When you spoke about your protective levels and how you are seen from their protective level, it's not always about when they're young. I was in my mid-20s when I went through this process with you. Sitting in that courtroom, seeing the process, seeing the kid outside of the process. And the crazy thing about it, I knew people that were on the other side with him in the courtroom.
Right.
It was the strangest thing ever to me. What I saw and what was displayed for me as a young man in my 20s, father to my son and my daughter, I saw a protective level on a whole different scale because now I'm learning a different way to fight. It don't require me going and putting my kids' future in danger. Because if I go out and hurt them, I ain't gonna be here.
You done.
It's over with. Now who gonna protect them? Not me.
Or who gonna be in that hospital?
Exactly.
Who gonna be in the hospital?
He stabbed my baby this time, and he know who I am. Guess what he gonna do to me? Or guess what I'm gonna do to him? I gotta live with that. But you showed me the amount of reserve that I saw, the integrity that I saw, the honor that I saw. It was truly amazing to me as a man in my mid-20s. Because at that point in time in my life, you jump in front of me, it's up. I don't care what you got going on. I literally had no fear of, if you out there, you out there.
Yeah.
And it's up with me at that point. But to see the display that you put on, man, he going through this with his daughter, and he ain't laid out one hand. It's a different way. Now I'm acknowledging it. Come around. Years later, I just went through one of the most upsetting times in my life 7 months ago. Who'd you get a phone call from?
No doubt.
I sat in your chair,
No doubt.
tears down my eyes, telling you what I had going on because of the amount of valor that I witnessed
Nah, that's good.
years before. It always comes back. It might not be right then at that moment, but you gave me the invitation to think different.
Nah, that's good.
And what I will say, not knowing what you went through, but knowing what you went through, I would say at some point you both probably had to make a choice. What am I going to tell myself through this experience?
Oh, yeah.
Because you had to make a decision in that courtroom, like you said, whether to forgive, whether to have integrity, whether to operate based on the identity of who I know I am, in spite of what my flesh or my human side of my protective fatherly nature is telling me to do right now. Because the experience wasn't going to change. No matter how much you cut it or slice it, that experience was what it is. But you had a choice. And this is what shows that fortitude of what fathers are supposed to have. Even in adversity. I've heard you say this all the time. Adversity will introduce you to your real self.
No doubt. No doubt.
Right? It ain't when it's up, but when it's down,
It is
when
when
people gonna be like, okay, who the real Deontay? Who the real Elliot? Who the real Reg? And every single time as fathers, no matter what we're faced with, we have a choice on what we're gonna tell ourselves through those experiences.
And D, that's the Reggie that was introduced to me, man, is just like Elliot was saying, like, man, anybody know me, like, bro, that's a different dude. Just because at the end of the day, what I hope for any father in that situation, whether you married, whether you it's just your baby mama, as long as it's your child, what I hope from every man in that situation, man, is you look at that thing and you say, when my baby open her eyes, I gotta be the first face she see.
Yeah.
Can't do that locked up. Can't do that dead. You can't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, because we know the resilience and the fight and the foundation that we put in our kids. And I needed her to see that.
And what you saying right now is what Elliot said at the very beginning. He said this father thing has to be something bigger outside of yourself. You being able to identify that and say, like, I can't be in nobody's jail. I can't be dead because I got two babies, one that's laid up in the hospital and one that's still going through it. They need me.
Come on, bro.
And that me going to do something might make me feel good for all of about 5 minutes. Because when all that high come down and all that adrenaline, guess what? You got to face the consequences to what? The decision that you made that ultimately alters the impact and the direction of your kid's life forever.
And that's how to get, not only am I worried about how I get through the situation, how Tiffany get through the situation,
Yes.
but we gotta be more aware of how do my kids, because the reality of it was, man, Camden could still be confined to a wheelchair. She could still be in some diapers. She could still not be able to walk. And not only that, now Kennedy gotta pivot. and understand, like, man, look, things don't look the same now. Now y'all can't hoop together. Y'all can't cheer together. Y'all can't, So at the end of the day, man, just to kind of wrap things up, man, more than anything, before we get off the show, Deontay, I always appreciate you. But Elliot, man, I appreciate you beyond words, man, because this is a great episode. It's an insightful episode, man. You know what I'm saying? Like you and Deontay got to doing y'all thing, and I, you know what I'm saying, had me feeling a little left out. I'm tripping, but nah, man. Just to wrap things up, man, we definitely have some powerful stuff, man, and accountability and responsibility is something we can talk on in about 8 different shows, man. You know what I'm saying? But this was awesome, man. So I appreciate y'all. And we just want to remind everybody, man, y'all go check the podcast out on YouTube, man. Check it out on all the audio platforms, man. Definitely want you to get you some father figure apparel, man. Support Black father figures, baby. Father figure apparel is at www.f2apparel.store. We got some new heat coming, man. You're gonna see some new drops. But signing off, man. We appreciate y'all, man. Hope you were encouraged. Hope you were uplifted, man. Hope you got something out of this thing. Y'all tune in next time to the Father Figure Podcast, man. Peace.